This is TWiT.
Don't miss All About Android every week. We talk about the latest news, hardware, apps, and now all the developer-y goodness happening in the Android ecosystem. I'm Jason Howell, also joined by Ron Richards, Florence Ion, and our newest co-host on the panel, Wen Tu Dao, who brings her developer chops. Really great stuff. We also invite people from all over the Android ecosystem to talk about this mobile platform we love so much. Join us every Tuesday, All About Android on twit.tv. Friend here at TWiT, Anthony Nielsen, told me a couple of weeks ago, he said, hey, I just got the Logitech G Cloud. You want to check it out? And of course I said, okay, because guess what? This bad boy runs Android. That's right. It's running on Android, but it is a cloud device. So,
that is a chunker.
It's a large handheld. I mean, we're getting more and more accustomed to seeing devices like this. Obviously, the Nintendo Switch is the easy kind of go-to because it's been around for a while and it has this form factor. We've seen some, aftermarket kind of things for hooking your phone into a controller and having the controller tap into the phone and the apps that you install from the Play Store and everything. And then of course we got like the Steam Deck, which is actually larger than the G Cloud that I have here. Also costs a little bit more. This G Cloud runs $349, so $350 for this device. And as you can see, though it's running Android, it has a different interface. There's a way to boot this into a standard Android tablet UI, but you end up having to do a little bit more of kind of the manual mapping for your controls and everything. And I think I read somewhere, I didn't test it myself, but if you're using this for an emulation device, you can run into some issues with mapping and kind of how things are set up. It might not be the perfect device to get if you really enjoy emulating. Even though in my mind, this is the kind of device you want if you're emulating. You want something that really is designed for gaming. And so, but like I said, I can't really speak to that. I didn't take the time to kind of set this up for emulation. I was really curious to see how this worked as a cloud gaming device, which is really kind of what it's about. I mean, it's right in the name, right? Logitech G Cloud. So this is really meant to be a cloud gaming device. And it has some really good support as far as that's concerned. It's got it's got Xbox Cloud Gaming. It's got NVIDIA GeForce Now. Of course, it does not have Stadia. You're not going to find Stadia in here, right? You got Steam Link. You can connect this to your Xbox. So if you're on your local network or maybe even remote networking into your Xbox at home, you can do that. I don't have an Xbox, so I couldn't test that out either. But like I've been doing with some reviews in the past, and this, I wouldn't say that this is like a full top to bottom soup to nuts review because I had this while I was sick, so I played it a handful of times. I would not say that I put this through the absolute ringer, but I got enough of a sense in playing it to understand whether if I had $350 and I wanted a cloud gaming portable device, would I feel like this was a good spend of that money or a ripoff, or maybe it's fine and there's others out there and this is just another in the marketplace. So I think the pros here is that the design is really nice. I mean, it is quite large, but it feels really nice. Kind of the curvature, the grip is comfy. The controllers themselves, it's got that vertical layout, which you either like or you don't like. I know that when I was talking to Anthony, he was kind of wishing that things were a little bit more angular than they are right now because it can be a little strange going top to bottom. It didn't bother me that much, but I would say that I'm not really of discerning taste when it comes to gaming these days. I just don't game enough to be that discerning, but I like it. It's got a 7-inch touchscreen. As you can see, you've got your analog and digital controllers. You also have your bumper buttons, some analog triggers up here. So really nice little switch for the power. This is a SD slot, which you're probably going to want. I'll talk about that in a second. Your volume rocker. You got your USB-C on the bottom, some speakers. and a handful of other buttons like the G Cloud button for pulling up extra context when you're within a game and you want to like quit the game, you would push that and you could exit out, or the home button, a number of other things. But so I think the controls kind of capabilities of this, I liked it. Streaming from your local console, like I said, I can't really speak to that because I don't have the Xbox, but Anthony has done that a lot on this device and said that he enjoys using the controller, like when he's in his, in bed wanting to play his Xbox. This allows him to just kind of lay in bed and, play it on a handheld device. That's pretty sweet. And then, of course, that micro SD card slot that's nice to have, because I'd say in the meh category, kind of the middle of the road, it only has 64 gigs of onboard storage. That might be enough if you're strictly cloud gaming and stuff like that. But if you want to do some Android gaming on that as well, you might run out of space. So having that extra storage is going to be nice. It's running a Snapdragon 720G, which is a 3-year-old chip on the inside. So, I'm a little. Anytime I see that especially a device that's this pricey, and I think to a certain degree, kind of hangs its hat on performance, it's kind of hard to go, okay, but it's got a 3-year-old chip. That's okay, especially when it's coupled with 4 gigs of RAM, which feels incredibly low to me. I feel like our phones are constantly like 12 gigs. Like, how does this have weird. 4 gigs of RAM? Mm-hmm. I don't even know. But that's
that's like a Chromecast has 4 gigs of RAM.
Yeah, right? Totally. But again, we're doing, cloud gaming largely, or streaming to, a browser. When you think of the Stadia model, that's what was happening there. So maybe it's a little bit less necessary as far as that's concerned. I don't know. I think that remains to be seen depending on how you choose to use the device. Again, I really kind of stuck with kind of the cloud gaming portion of this. And the display kind of falls into that meh category, which maybe I'm off base on this, but it's a 1080p LCD display. It's large enough that I don't know. I felt like there was a lack of clarity. Like if I'm on my phone and it's 1080p, it's a narrower display. I don't really care as much how things look. 1080p feels good enough. 4K feels like overkill. On this larger display, I kind of feel like how do I turn up the brightness? That's a great question, Burke. Here, I'll just launch something that's maybe a little bit easier here. I know that it's a little dark, and so Burke's telling me to increase the brightness, and off the cuff, I can't remember how to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and just launch into the cloud gaming interface and load something else. That was Halo Infinite, by the way. But anyways, I felt like the display is not like the most amazing asset of this. I feel like it could be a little bit sharper, but it's fine. I think where the downfall, like Forza Horizon, which I played for quite a bit, latency, just like streaming, cloud streaming latency for me. Here at the studio, we've got really great Wi-Fi, and you're going to be bored by the load screen, which is kind of what I'm looking at right now. So here I was kind of using the Wi-Fi here, which is pretty strong. I feel like things were pretty latent at home. I really felt like things were latent, and I don't feel like my internet is too crazy slow. I think the down is 100 megabits, somewhere around there, 100, 200, somewhere around there. I can't even remember at this point, but it felt like things should be a lot clearer and a lot, a lot less of like the breakup and fast action. Sometimes I felt like my actions, that I was punching it with my fingers were behind what I was seeing on the screen by like a half second. I don't know. It's just little things like that kind of, impact the experience. I might throw in some extra B-roll in post just so that you get some actual gameplay, because as I'm talking about it, it's kind of hard to do that. I think ultimately the value for me in my time with it anyways, if I had $350 and I wanted to buy a cloud gaming, system, I don't know, man. Like it's kind of hard when you compare it against, something like the Steam Deck that does a ton more for $50 more, or, you compare it against the quality of the Nintendo Switch. I mean, you can get those for $199. You can get the regular, that's the light version, the step up, $100 more. You're still $50 less for the Nintendo Switch than you are for the G Cloud, which is running, an Android kind of processor that's 3 years old. I don't know. I feel like the price is off. If this was $150 cheaper, I feel like it would be a no-brainer. But at $350, it feels like a hard sell to me. I don't know. Does this speak to either of you?
Is the Android aspect of it, like the fact that it can it do more than a Switch or a Steam Deck?
Yeah, sure. Right? Certainly. It has the Play Store installed.
Right.
It has the Play Store installed. But again, I'm trying to remember the game that Anthony was playing through Android. I want to say it was Genshin Impact, and the performance was really low and I mean that makes sense, right? It's got 4 gigs of RAM. So how is this thing going to compete with many mid-range phones nowadays have more RAM and they're able to run games like that better than apparently this can when it comes to Android gaming,
But as a media device or something?
Yeah, I mean, you can install Netflix on it. You can use it as a media device, no problem. That's fine. But aren't we awash with media devices at this point? I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
That just feels like table stakes to me.
So, yeah, I mean, I have a Steam Deck and I've been playing it nonstop. Hades, if you're curious. It is interesting to kind of compare specs because I think the Steam Deck screen is it's got a lower resolution. I think I was reading. I'm looking here at the specs, 1280. It's only 400 nits, whereas that's 450 nits. So presumably a brighter screen. It is heavier, but it also has the haptic pads that Steam was. But it is more powerful. So even though it quote only runs Steam, Steam games, it does have storage. You can download games. You can play offline. Whereas, I don't know. Is it only Android games you can play? Only certain Android games you can play offline with the G Cloud, because everything else is.
Well, I think you could load any Android games on here that are served in the Play Store. So any games in the Play Store that allow for offline play, absolutely.
So there seems to be nominally a broader content range that you can play on it, but
yeah, there is. Yeah, you're probably right.
And it is lighter. I'm not I'm not an Xbox Live person, so maybe it's not.
Yeah,
it's sort of hitting me on the Android side, but not hitting me on the Steam side because I already have I have a Steam Deck and I have a big phone with a big screen. So I don't know. It feels like it's overlapping a little bit, at least for me, couple devices that I have. I do love the idea of cloud gaming, and I do like the idea of putting cloud gaming in a device of this form factor. I guess I'm not blown away. Especially 4 gigabytes of RAM. Again, sorry, not to compare, but to compare, the Steam Deck has 16 gigabytes of RAM.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think you have to compare when it's a gaming system. When it's a gaming device, a device created for gaming. 4 gigs just seems. I don't know. It just seems criminally low to me.
Yeah, it's odd.
It is very bizarre. Yeah. So anywho, that's my thoughts on some relatively short amount of time with the Logitech G Cloud. $350. I'd be really curious to hear from folks, fans of the show who want one, who have one, who decided not to get one. What are your thoughts? What is it doing or not doing for that price? It seems expensive to me, but maybe I'm not the right person for it because I don't do a whole lot of gaming these days. So curious to know what you think. AAA@twit.tv.
Victor would be great for this.
Yeah, I'm sure Victor would have opinions. Hey, Victor, get in on the feedback. We may even give you the email of the week, Victor, if you send us some sort of a review.
Nothing says you can't get it, Victor. You could get the email of the week.
You could. So, yeah. You could. It's yours for the taking. So there you go. The Logitech G Cloud.